Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
And yes, Kevin O'Connell, that's right. Away we do go with Purple Access. It's Zulgad, it's Scoggins. It's a once-a-week absolute treat, a throwback to the Star Tribune days of Access Vikings and all that great stuff. And Chipper, let's start with this one. Your state of the Vikings quarterback position now that Carson Wentz has won a game. JJ McCarthy is it's clearly not clear when he might return or when they'll feel comfortable bringing him back. But given the fact that, as we all know, it can never be simple. It can never just be a clear, hey, JJ McCarthy time, and for the next 10 years, they're going to take us into retirement. No. It has to be convoluted and messy. And so what's your state of the quarterback?
Yeah, I think Wentz played about probably like I thought he might. I guess there were some unknowns because he hadn't played in so long, and he even admitted that's the first game that of significance that he had played in a while. So, but I think, and Kevin O'Connell and basically alluded to this when he talked this week, is like, this is basically a week by week thing and just let it play out and see how it goes and don't put a timetable on anything, which is probably the smart thing to do because you just want to see what the team does and how it responds. And it sounds like JJ's ankle is healing, on schedule or whatever. But I do like what I saw from Wentz was just the decisiveness. I mean, there was he got rid of the ball quick, Judd. It wasn't like sitting back there not sure where to go, indecisive, anything like that. Step back, knew where he was going to go with the ball. I liked that he got the tight ends going because I think the last couple of weeks I've been screaming about that. Where's Hawkins and where's Oliver? They didn't, it's clear he's going to use those guys, and now getting Addison back. So I think O'Connell's probably playing it the right way and not making any concrete, definitive statements about how this thing's going to go because he probably doesn't know. Like, let's say they go there and win this week, and JJ's healthy. Are you going to, change then? I guess the Cleveland defense, that's good. I don't think so. Do you?
No, I think you're going down the right path. Like, I think you're exactly right. I think this has as much to do with how the team plays as it has to do with McCarthy's healing. And I thought O'Connell, when grilled a bit by our guy Seifert, just a great job by Kevin to sort of drill down and attempt to get some answers. But I thought the most interesting thing O'Connell said as far as trying to take away what he's getting at, because it's never black and white, right? It's never cut. I thought the most interesting thing O'Connell said in his responses to Kevin Seifert on Monday was when he talked about we basically need to get him to where he can run again.
Yeah.
So like if there's any question, like if JJ McCarthy does not start the Philadelphia game, a lot of people will scream benching. But I think what O'Connell's going to come back and say is, oh, no, I'm not. But he has to be, and I don't disagree with this. He has to be able to run. You cannot, and he got hurt running. And if he was 30 years old, you'd basically say, don't run. But it's a huge part, and we talked about this in training camp, huge part of his game right now. You cannot say don't run.
No, I mean, he's mentioned his mobility, and that's right. I mean, that's, something that's part of his game. That, and I just think he has enough swirling around. We saw it the first two games, right? The game looked fast. Now, you could say it's only going to slow down if he plays. It's not going to slow down him sitting on the sideline. But I don't think you want to put him out there until he feels 100% capable physically to be able to do all he thinks. If he's, 80% and he's, unsure about, hey, can I take off and run? Well, then that's not the time to put him out there, And this is why you went and got a veteran backup, Carson Wentz, that you can just plug in there and feel comfortable that he's going to run the system. And, it took training camp and seeing something else before you decided they needed to go to Carson Wentz. But I agree with O'Connell's, like, he said after the game, we're going to do right by JJ. And to me, it's like, you have to feel 100% comfortable and he has to feel 100% comfortable that he can do everything that he needs to do.
I also think that O'Connell was saying in some ways, we're going to do right by JJ, but the unsaid thing, and you're not going to come out and say this, is we have to also do right by the locker room, right?
By the team, yeah.
Like if they, to your point, he wants to see, like, this is not just, hey, can Carson Wentz be the starter for the next 3 years? This is he wants to see how the team continues to play. Because if Carson Wentz plays well and they sweep the Steelers and Browns, I know you've got a bye week, and I've said this to Phil, and I think I said it to you last Thursday. I don't get how you would go in the locker room and be like, okay, boys, JJ's back in. Yeah. It's a veteran team.
I guess the only way is you would want to see how they won. If they won because if the defense is dominating but the offense is not moving, then it's more. But if I would say more of what we saw Sunday, but even then some, because you're adding Addison, he's going to get more comfortable. Then if the offense is putting up points and he's looked sharp and everything's going well, you don't reverse course at that point. I don't think, even though we know JJ's obviously the future and everything about him, but and that's, again, it goes back to the original point. I think that's why O'Connell's not painting himself into a corner by making any definitive statement. What do you say to Seifert on thing? Is like, that's not a question that has to be answered right now. Yes.
Which means I don't want to
answer it. Yes.
Go home, Kevin. Go home. Quit asking all these tough questions.
Stop it, Kevin. I'll tell you when I tell you. But then you get a sense, I mean, just watching Wentz, that I thought he got better as the game went along. I thought he got more into a rhythm. And I do think, Judd, that the experience and just, all the games that he's played and knowing how fast your clock has to be there. Look how fast the ball came out of his hand compared to when JJ had it. Because JJ was indecisive. He was looking and just felt like, like I said, it felt like it was happening at warp speed. And he didn't know where to go. Wentz, the ball came out fast. I mean, it was just like, everybody had the time on it that, there was release.
Right. It was quick.
He knew he was decisive. And I think that's impressive considering he's been here, a month? Like he hadn't, and really 1 week of getting starter reps. So I'm curious. I want to see, this season or this week, now that you got Addison, you hope Addison picks up where he left off in training camp, because, man, he was the best offensive player in training camp, I thought. Mm-hmm. And so, he's going to be excited to make an impact right away. So, I want to see what that offense, but you know what to me, Judd, and what it really all stemmed from, man, being able to run the ball and being a physical running team.
Right. Well, that's my question. So I agree. Carson Wentz did a very nice job given the circumstances and his limited amount of time in practice. But here's my question, and I feel like this hasn't been reflected on enough. How much did O'Connell set Wentz up to succeed, and how much did he not set McCarthy up in the same way? Because I feel like the timing of the passes was not just the quarterback, but it was also the play selection. It felt like O'Connell, and he did. There's no question about this. He had to dumb down the game plan a bit because Carson Wentz does not have the full playbook digested. But it felt like with McCarthy, Kevin O'Connell was trying to you've been here a long time. Let's cut this loose. I thought the Wentz game plan is what should now be translated when McCarthy does come back to him.
And how much are we going to say Christian Darrisaw coming back too?
Oh, huge. Yes. Yeah. Mason. Yes, you're right. You're 100%.
But to your point, you're right. Is like they clearly were going to establish Jordan Mason and get him going. I mean, look at some of those runs and just that was the boilerplate for what we talked about all off season. Like, how are they going to marry this new ability to run the ball and be physical? And I mean, look at the inside the 5, right? Jordan Mason. I mean, it's what game 1, game 1 or game 2, we're faking a pitch and give him the ball, and we saw that. And so I think it's a combination of him, maybe shrinking the playbook and knowing that he may not have everything in understood and learned right now.
Yep.
But I think it's the commitment to the run, and I also just think having Christian Darrisaw, goodness, I mean, just the security that I mean, that was a mess the first 2 games, and he shored that up. And so, yeah, you'd like to see JJ with Christian Darrisaw, with Addison back, but there's no question he was holding the ball too long. Some of that pressure and sacks were on JJ not being able to get rid of the ball. I think it's a combination of things. I don't know. You can split the percentage, but it was a combination of those things. But yeah, I liked the game plan. I thought it was I thought it was smart.
I liked getting, and it didn't result in a bunch of big plays, but he had a nice game. I liked the game plan of also getting Justin Jefferson some short passes, any way that you get the ball in 18's hands. But yeah. Darrisaw coming back. I mean, when you see what Mason did, and it did show again that when Aaron Jones comes back, Mason needs to get, if not the bulk of the carries, he needs to start and be far more influential. In game 2, he had 0 carries. I don't think he was on the field in the first 2 series. So that's one thing. But yeah, Darrisaw back. It's interesting because if Wentz continues to play well and to what you said, picks up his play, which is possible, there's going to be, I think, a want among the coaching staff and some fans to stick with Wentz. But there are also dynamics you're starting to see now, Addison coming back, Darrisaw back, that you are like, well, I'd like to see McCarthy with this as well.
That's it, yeah.
I just don't know. The one thing this team has painted itself into a corner a little bit on is it doesn't have a roster where you can be like the Titans and say, okay, we're losing, but
who cares? Yeah.
But our young quarterback is getting great reps. Like the Vikings are trying to thread a very interesting needle of we've got a young quarterback, we want to develop him, but oh, by the way, we got a bunch of guys that signed here to win immediately.
Yeah, it's a delicate thing because this is not a team that's in position to say, I don't want to say that results don't matter, but we're building for something, right?
Right.
No, this team is trying to win right now, and I'm of the opinion when something's going well, you don't mess with it. That's just how, particularly in the NFL where things can change so much. So, but that again, that will play out over the coming weeks. A week from now, we may have an entirely different conversation. 2 weeks from now, it may be a entirely different conversation. So, I think you just have to really legitimately, it's a week by week thing and see how the offense and the team responds. But I think they got the right backup. I think Wentz can give them what they need right now. I really do. I mean, first half he took a couple sacks where it didn't look good, right? I mean, he obviously doesn't have the mobility that he once did. No. But if he can counter that by getting the ball out of his hands fast, that'll help that. And he'll get more and more comfortable, and I'm sure the offense will expand the more he's in it. So, so it was a good first step. Yeah. Considering all the factors that went into it.
It was funny too. And you referenced this in your column on Monday off of the O'Connell press conference after the game on Sunday, but I thought it was interesting that O'Connell, instead of using the now, I feel like it's almost derogatory term game manager, used the term point guard.
For sure.
And I mean, to me, it's the same exact thing, but that was a very good description, I thought, of what Carson Wentz did. He was the point guard. He didn't try to do things too flashy. He didn't try to do too much, but he did a really good job of distributing the football where it should go. Well,
that's it. Yeah, I love that term because it's just like, for one, I play point guard, but it's like, I'm getting the ball here, I'm getting the ball out, I'm putting, getting it to the playmakers. And I asked Wentz about it, saying, hey, KO referenced you being a point guard, and he's like, that's all I've ever tried to be. Is like, I don't want to be back here running around, extending plays, trying to be the star of the show. He's like, I want to get the ball to Jefferson, to Addison, to Hawkins, and just kind of distribute it. So I thought that was a really good description. And you know what, Judd? I think they'll take that. I think that's exactly what they're looking. Just don't make mistakes. Don't make killer mistakes. Get the ball to the playmakers. And if they can do that and run the ball like they did with Mason, that effectively. Obviously, that game just was so weird. It's like one of the weirdest games with the defensive touchdowns that the second half was just kind of run the ball, milk, all those things. But I think, again, the template, the boilerplate, I think it's there if Wentz is, if they're going to stick here with him for, foreseeable future.
So the intriguing thing about this as well is, so on Sunday they play the Steelers, and the Steelers' defense has not been good. It's in, I think, the bottom third of the league in almost every traditional major category. The game that I am really interested to see is the Cleveland game, because Myles Garrett, they can wreck games. And that defense, Cleveland's weird because they're sort of a mess of a team, but Kevin Stefanski is a good coach, and Jim Schwartz is a good DC, and that defense is very formidable. And then you got the bye, but then, Chip, you come back with those four just
that killer stretch. I know.
So like I'm sure O'Connell will say, hey, I'm judging this on my team, not the opponents. But the reality is you have to be judging. Like if you came and played three patsies, it'd probably be simpler to be like, okay, let's put JJ back in there. But like your next, starting with Cleveland, in my opinion, you've got a 5-game stretch against teams that can in one way or another be very, very difficult.
Yeah, it's interesting, Judd, because I sit here and say it's a week by week thing, but it's not hard to do exactly what we're doing and saying, okay, Cleveland's good defense. Then you got a bye, and then this killer stretch. Do you want to put a guy, who has basically no experience, is coming off injury, looked, rattled for a lot of the times against that? But then you counter it is like, at some point he's got to grow and learn, and you got to see what he is. You don't want to go through another season, not have the evaluation. So it is a fascinating landscape that I want to see how KO handles, because the schedule is set up for a weird or a tough decision for him. Like how do you manage this with JJ? Because ideally, no injury. He's using this time to gain confidence, get comfortable, and all that. Then you hit that stretch, and okay, he's gone through this. The fact that he's not going to be able to go through it, do you just throw him out there against that group? I don't know. That's why you make a lot of money to be the head coach to make those decisions.
Well, and you're in an interesting predicament because, again, you've got a veteran team that wants to win. Like, does Javon Hargrave, does Jonathan Allen go home at night and think, well, first and foremost, we need to develop our young QB. And if we win, that's a great residual effect. Or do they say, no, hell no, I signed here to win. And I don't frankly, I don't care if it's Carson Wentz, JJ McCarthy, Fran Tarkington, or Terry Bradshaw at quarterback, like so it's a really, and O'Connell, for all of the quarterback stuff, at the end of the day, he's responsible for the roster and wins. And the other thing too is, here's what I am, among the many storylines off of this. One that's occurred to me in the past week that I'm very curious to see is this as well. So it's very clear that O'Connell can take a quarterback who's been around and knows what he's doing. Perhaps he struggled, perhaps he has not played for a while, but that quarterback understands. And there's a clip, I don't know if you saw it, from before the game on Sunday, that the Vikings put out, where O'Connell's like, I will be with you every step of the way. This is us together. I'm there for you. And he knows that his language to Carson Wentz will make sense, just like it did to Darnold, just like it does to guys who have been around.
Dobbs.
Yeah, exactly. So, but the McCarthy thing is, because he's so young, I think O'Connell can speak the language, and McCarthy understands the language, but I don't know that he can execute it as well. So I'm so curious to see how this translates to a young quarterback that understands what O'Connell wants, but isn't as capable of processing it as what 32-year-old Carson Wentz is, Chipper.
Yeah, and that's the difference, Judd, with taking a quarterback who's doing this for the first time versus a veteran. I mean, Carson Wentz has played however many games he has, and so I mean, he's seen it, done it, knows what to expect. So this is nothing new. It's just understanding the way KO does it, all, the offense and all that. But he's seen all these different defenses and blitzes and all that. Well, this is all new for JJ. I mean, everything's happening so fast for him. So it'll be interesting to see KO handle his quarterbacks. We've seen him, as you mentioned, we've seen him do his thing with veterans. This is a completely different conversation when a guy who's doing it for the first time, and is adjusting to the speed, seeing defenses he's never seen, all the things that come with the newness of it. So that's an extra challenge for a coach versus Carson Wentz has seen a lot. O'Connell knows he's seen a lot. They can draw on that. He's seen so much in his career. Now it's just applying what he knows to this offense and what, the game plan is. So it feels like it's I don't know if it's a totally different conversation, but two different dynamics that he's navigating. But it'll be the extra challenge of walking or helping JJ navigate all these firsts.
Yes. And patience.
While also, and we've said this from the beginning, there's patience, but not really. This team has built a way. It's weird. I mean, yes, there's patience, and you have to be patient with the young quarterback, but this team's expected to win right now, and so there's pressure. There's pressure for him to perform and for this team to win.
And O'Connell's never done like with the Vikings. He's never done this before. Like he improved Kirk.
Yep.
So he gets total credit for that. His work with Darnold was incredible. Dobbs was such a short stay and was not going to have obviously lasting power. But like this is a different test of patience. And my feeling about O'Connell is he tries really hard to be patient during the week, but there's no time to be patient on Sunday. So like you can't. Oh, hey, you threw an interception you threw a bad pass there. I'm sure that long miss, the deep route against the Falcons for Naylor drove him crazy because he could not have designed a better pass. Now, should that have been called on 3rd and short with a guy with a bad ankle? That can be debated. But in Kevin O'Connell's mind, he called the perfect play and it didn't hit, and that's probably all he took away from that.
Isn't it interesting too, Judd, that what have we heard O'Connell, and he said it, I've heard him say it 2 or 3 times with JJ. He's on a long journey, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's O'Connell's way of telling the media and telling fans that, okay, don't think of this as this week, think of it as his career, and this is going to, be a process.
Yes.
Understandably, but he's approaching it with that belief and mindset within the framework of this is a team that is constructed to win right now. And so it's an interesting dance, I will say, right? As a coach, where you have to have the understanding of, gosh, it's not going to be perfect right away, but this team has got some really good players and needs to be a playoff team, so it's you have to have patience with mistakes, but also an understanding of there's an urgency too to get him acclimated and get him comfortable.
I also think, to go back to O'Connell's probably his best single quote since taking the job, of teams fail young quarterbacks more than young QBs fail teams. And of course, we always pick the latter and say that the dude's a bust. But I think people will say, well, you're not starting, if you don't start McCarthy as soon as he is set to go, you're doing the same thing that you've accused teams of doing. And I would say this, Kevin O'Connell's response would be, oh, no. He'd say what you just said, which is JJ McCarthy starting against the Eagles in 5 years is not going to have made a bit of difference if we've done this right. So I think O'Connell would contradict that and say, we are developing a quarterback here and we want him to be as successful as possible. And at the end of the day, 2025 is not going to or should not define him. Now we can debate that, but I also think that there is a much longer play here. Now, now my personal thing is, but he's on a rookie contract. It's a really good time to cash in. But O'Connell would probably say, as my job as a developer of a quarterback, that's not what I'm considering as much. We make him good. Yeah,
O'Connell will say my timeline is to develop the quarterback best. I don't care about contracts and all that right now. He'll say, because they have publicly now, as someone who's building the team. That's a different story, but his number one goal and mission is to make sure and give McCarthy the best opportunity to be a franchise quarterback for the long term, not for October of 2025, right? So, however that looks, but the other thing, that plays into this, at least from the Wentz discussion, as we were talking about earlier, we even talked about the defense. I mean, this defense is going to allow some growing pains. I mean, we thought this was going to be a top 5 defense going in. Nothing has changed. I mean, obviously, what Isaiah Rodgers did was, generational game. I mean, you just don't see that historic game. But Judd, I think about those young guys, Redmond, Levi Rodriguez, what they're doing. We're seeing now why they let Harrison Phillips go. I mean, they have some guys along that defense line, and I think that everything starts right there.
I think that defense, the game against the Bengals, and look, they get full credit. They were outstanding. Jake Browning's a disaster. But but the reality is, and their defense, again, is a lot of guys who are long in the tooth. Now, I love the fact that the second wave of the defensive line now is young and really good and appears to be developing. But all of that being said, what we're seeing defensively is a team that when they put it together, and I do think that there was, Bijan Robinson's a special player for the Falcons. That being said, I think the defense was thoroughly embarrassed to give up 218 total rushing yards against Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
So, this defense appears to be again, it's formidable. And what's funny is, we talked about the return of Christian Darrisaw, left tackle. How about the return? How do you quantify Harrison Smith? Because he's not the player he once was, athletically, this is not 2017. And so it's sort of hard to, there's no PFF grades on being a coach on the field, which sounds sort of cliched. But did you notice Ivan Pace had a much better game with Harrison Smith? There's one clip I saw of the All-22 where Harrison comes in and literally grabs Pace and throws him towards the middle of the field, and Pace makes the tackle.
Yeah. Well, you can't grade intelligence, really. And that's what Harrison brings. I mean, I think Flores feels like he has a coach on the field and a guy who's going to get everybody in the right spot. And, he creates a turnover, gets his hand on that first ball that Rodgers picks off. That was a nice play. And to have him be able to disguise, be able to move around. We saw him up at the line. We saw him, deep. We saw him all over. And, it was what he played about half the snaps. It wasn't, I don't think it was, and some of that was because they didn't play, the fourth quarter, but, and it'll be probably a gradual get his game legs under him before he's out there for, the whole duration. But, you can't underscore it. And then when you get Cashman back here at some point, I think they were embarrassed by Robinson and what he, even though they held field goals, they were upset with themselves for the rushing. But I think, the way that defense plays gives you confidence or takes a lot of pressure off that offense too.
Oh God. Yeah. And so you also look, and I think with Hitman back, it probably calls this into a bigger discussion, but you know what too? And when you saw again, some of the clips, what that team was doing, what the Vikings were doing defensively against the Bengals, I just wonder how many guys on that defense have a defense Harvard PhD. Harrison Smith does. I think Josh Metellus does.
Yeah,
but
very smart, yeah.
And there's one play in particular where the Vikings start off cover 0, and then I think they go cover 1, and by the time it's snapped, Harrison Smith has gone back to make it a cover 2.
Yeah.
And JJ Watt broke it down really well. And he was talking about the fact that this goes so far beyond just the game plan, the design.
Yeah.
Everybody has to know what they're doing. And if one guy can, accidentally sabotage the entire play. And when you look at the intelligence of the guys that they have defensively to do that, and yes, it screws up QBs, but QBs, if you have a couple guys do the wrong thing, a QB is going to pick you apart. I just think the intelligence level of the players, and that's got to be part of what Flores looks for, right? It's not just athletic talent. It's not just like Blake Cashman fits in my system because of how I saw him play. There has to be a level of intelligence too that you identify and say, not only can he fit in what I want to do physically, but he can fit in what we're calling for mentally.
Yeah, and part of it is because they ask him, players don't get pigeonholed in his scheme. I mean, you're asked to do a lot of different things, and so you have to have a certain acumen and football IQ to just understand concepts and understand on the, because you're right, pre-snap, there's so much commotion and communication going on that you have to be able to think quickly and react quickly and make adjustments like that, and so I don't know what, if that's comes through in his conversations with free agents or during the draft process, like he can filter that out. Like, I don't think this guy is a fit for us, or this is exactly the type of player, that can handle all that and it's probably, Judd, why we see day one of training camp, there's no training wheels. They're coming out with exotic blitzes and doing all these things. So they rehearse this and choreographics from day one. So it's not like, okay, we're just going to do this vanilla install. No, it's like we're doing exotic from day one. And I think you have to do it that way, because think about all the communication that goes on to be able to make all those checks and all those disguises. Because you're right. If one guy's not on the same page, it could be, disastrous, give up a touchdown. So it's one of my favorite things during a game is to watch the defense and all the movements and all the checks and conversations that they're having pre-snap.
Yeah.
To think about what all goes into that to make that work.
And some of that means nothing too. That's my favorite part is the signals that are fake and the signals that are real, and then like the deception that matters and the deception that doesn't. If I'm not mistaken too, and at some point in time, if I'm still correct here, because this could have been taken care of behind the scenes, I don't think so. At some point in time here, we're going to have a conversation about Brian Flores, as far as I know, is in the last year of his contract too.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure he gets a head coaching job as long as his lawsuit against the NFL is proceeding, which it currently is. But I could tell you this, that guy's contract, let's say it expires February 20th or something like that, Chipper, and he hits the defensive coordinator free agent market. I don't think teams are going to say, well, he's suing the league, so we don't want him as our defensive coordinator. No.
Well, and it's, I don't know his contract situation, but clearly the Vikings understand his value. And I also think this is a credit to O'Connell too. He's secure enough in his role. It's, I don't say it's 1 and 1A, but it sort of is 1 and 1A. He treats Flores almost like a de facto head coach of his defense, and they collaborate, and there's no threat or anything. Like I appreciate a coach that's comfortable enough to give his coaches, and particularly his coordinators, that kind of autonomy and that kind of authority. You just hear O'Connell talk about how they collaborate, and they're, how they even want to approach a game. We're going to do this, you do that. I mean, it's a hell of a working relationship between those two.
Wouldn't you love to be a fly on the wall during training camp, though?
Oh, goodness. Yeah,
I bet there have been some knockdown drag-outs when the doors are closed.
Knock it off! That's it.
You're bleeping, blitzing, McCarthy. Trying to get him ready for the season.
I know.
B-Flow's like, I don't care. It's not my problem.
I gotta get my defense ready.
Yeah. Josh Metellus is like running in circles for me. No one knows what he's going to do.
I know.
But yeah, it's just an interesting one because, and in some ways, perhaps the Ed Donatel failure was the best thing that could have happened to Kevin O'Connell, because he saw like, okay, if I take that road, quite frankly, we're just not going to be good enough on defense. And, Kevin O'Connell runs the entire team, and he basically runs the offense. He does not have time to run the defense. And so I think with Ed, it was just like, okay, this is a disaster. And then you go get a guy who's a huge personality and does a great job. And it also sounds like if what we read and hear from Beefalo is true, it also sounds like he does a pretty damn good job of deferring to his assistants on defense.
Yeah.
The players.
Well, and that's what good coordinators do, right? I mean, you trust your people. So yeah, I can't recall a synergy like we see with this coaching staff.
It was supposed to be Zim and Norv were sort of like this when it started, and it was supposed to, and then it of course went haywire.
Yeah, it went sideways. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. To me, Brian Flores is a head coach. I mean, he just is. But whether he gets that opportunity again, I don't know. But he's a brilliant defensive guy, that's for sure.
I was going to say, I wonder if he's so good as a defensive coordinator, though. Like the problem is the head coaching job now is so much.
Yeah.
It's so much crap and I mean, certain guys are just great coordinators. And by the way, there's no shame in that. Like, that's an impressive skill. But I do wonder, because Brian Flores is he's got some zim. He's such a defensive guy.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that now translates to like the entire team and the offense. Now, if he gets the right guy, I think but I would almost hate to see him stifled with the mundane paper shuffling that appears head coaches now have to do.
Well, that's it. I mean, there's so much that goes into just organizational big picture that it takes you a lot away from the coaching. But yeah, I think if he gets another shot, obviously he would have to find the right offense coordinator and trust that guy to do that. And because now we've just seen we've seen it because I don't know, there's a more important relationship than head coach and quarterback in the NFL. I mean, you got to get that right.
Yeah. I don't want Flores to like have to be concerned about how many trucks of Gatorade are going to London. You just like, I don't want to have to worry about that. Just, you got this great defense, how many pencils and pens are being shipped across the pond. I don't like that. By the way, speaking across the pond, of course, the Vikings play the Steelers on Sunday. And don't forget, join us at Padregs for the game and then a post-game live vent line. Padregs, our friends in Northeast Minneapolis, going to open at 8 a.m. on Sunday. And then, of course, kickoff at 8:30. We're going to have breakfast food there from Egg on a Roll, Spy House Coffee, the fantastic Irish beer. The red is great from Padregs. Also, for this event, there will be Bloody Marys and a special Spy House Porter for coffee beer fans, which sounds outstanding. Plenty of TVs inside. There are outdoor spaces as well. It's supposed to be a nice day. Space is limited, so make sure that you get there early. Again, doors open at 8 a.m. And then enjoy vent line afterwards. Hopefully, we're talking about a Vikings victory. So, Chip Scoggins, when the Vikings get back from jolly old England, their record on this road trip will have been what?
2-0.
Okay. I can see it.
I think they're going to win both. I just think they're better than both opponents. Obviously, Cleveland's defense is going to be tough, but it'll be fascinating to see. You can argue this both ways, Judd. It'll be fascinating to see, first time a team's gone over there for back-to-back weeks. See how they handle that the second week, because, I mean, they're leaving Thursday, right? So it's first game is just a short trip, but they're going to be there a while. But their bodies they're going to be acclimated to it. Haven't been over there. So that could be an advantage too. But I think they come back with 2 wins.
And that's a short flight too. So like
hour flight probably, right?
A long flight to Dublin, but then it sounds like it's basically going from Cleveland to Detroit to go from Dublin to London. And so, I think you're right. I will say this. Again, they're not that good of a team, but because they're stout defensively, don't take Cleveland lightly. I feel like they won't take Pittsburgh for granted, but the Packers got sloppy.
Mm-hmm.
Packers got sloppy, and as the late great Sid Hartman said, crazy league.
Crazy league.
I mean, the Cleveland Browns are down by 10 points late or something like that. And Packers, Jordan Love throws that terrible pass. So I do think focus becomes huge here. And I'm curious if it helps them to be on the road for 10 days because you're away from home technically, but then a lot of families are coming.
Yeah.
Can't be sightseeing. No sightseeing.
No Big Ben, right?
That's for Seaford, who's going. He can go with the Big Ben. You can't. You got to stay in your. You got to pound the playbook, baby.
That's right. No fun. We're having no fun on this trip.
I mean, wife and kids can come over and they can go all out all day long. We don't care. But I mean, I need the boys. In the banquet room meeting talking about play.
That's right.
All right, Chip Scoggins, great stuff. We will talk about this game and much more next Thursday on Purple Access. We'll see you later, buddy.
See you, bro.